4 decision there. Joining us now, House Republican Conference Chairwoman, Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Let's just start there with your reaction to the breaking news here. Supreme Court putting some limits, it would seem, on what President Trump and his advisor, Elon Musk, can do.
Yeah, it's I just found out about it as we were sitting here as well. And it's unfortunate. You know, I wish it would have went the other way. But at the end of the day, the Supreme Court is the law of the land, and we need to actually follow the law of the Supreme Court. So I'll take a look at it and see what the ruling is when we get done. But we still have to move forward, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
Yeah, and certainly the Trump administration, has suggested they will abide by court orders. Though Donald Trump, at other moments, has suggested maybe not. We shall see what happens in the days ahead. Let's just all now turn to the main event last night, the president's speech there in the building behind you. Your reactions, do you think that he was able to communicate his vision for the country to voters, but in particular about those day-to-day economic prices that helped win him the campaign?
Yeah, I thought he did an amazing job. I mean, I was with the president prior to. He was excited, he was energized, and he was ready. And when he got when he gave the address, I thought it was positive. I thought he had a vision. I thought he had a message. And I thought he laid out a very optimistic future for America. Look, we are getting America back on track. We're securing our border. We are talking about actually getting a peace deal in Ukraine. We're bringing hostages home. Listen, his message was loud and clear if you wanted to hear the message, and that is America was back. So I was extremely optimistic. I know my constituents were optimistic, and all in all, we thought it was a good message, a good vision, and America is back.
Congressman, you say you and your constituents pleased by what you heard last night, but the Wall Street Journal editorial board has a new piece this morning titled "Trump's Tariffs Whack Trump Voters." It reads in part this way. President Trump won the presidency a second time by promising working class voters he'd lift their real incomes, which makes it all the more puzzling that he's so intent on imposing tariffs that will punish those same Americans. Tariffs are taxes, and Mr. Trump's latest tariffs are estimated to be about an annual $150 billion tax increase. Taxes are anti-growth. Mr. Trump's tariff spree is the triumph of ideology over, well, common sense. Let's hope the president soon comes to his senses. And Congressman, let's get your reaction to this, to the Journal had to say, but in particular on tariffs, which do seem, economists believe, hurts working class Americans, particularly those in the auto industry, which, of course, that's the state of Michigan.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that people are concerned about taxes. So I'm encouraged to know that all of the Democrats will probably vote with us to extend the Trump tax cuts because we wouldn't want to raise taxes on average Americans. But as it pertains to the tariffs, remember, tariffs are a negotiation tool to have fair trade and to put America and Americans, country and people first. And that's exactly what they're doing. If you also noticed, Howard Lutnick noticed last night that Canada is actually coming to the table to negotiate tariffs and fair trade with the American government. And that's exactly what it's designed to do. Look, we want investments in America. We want products to be made in America. We want manufacturing to be done in America. And most of all, we want fair trade for America. And that's exactly what the tariffs are designed to do. Now, there's a difference between short term and long term. And I would just ask to be a little bit patient. And different than the previous administration, President Trump will use every tool available to him to make sure that we have free and fair trade. And tariffs are a negotiation tool that I would argue are already working. Look at what Canada and Mexico did with the flow of fentanyl. President Trump threatened tariffs a month ago if they didn't comply and send troops to the border to help stop the flow of fentanyl. What did they do? They responded to the threat of tariffs. What did we see last night? We saw foreign countries like Canada coming to the table saying, hey, we want to negotiate with you. We want to have fair trade agreements. So I would beg to differ with you a little bit on let's wait and see how this plays out.
Congresswoman Elise Jordan here. In your role as chair of the House Republican Conference, you heard a lot of cats on a daily basis. And so I wanted to know what you think of the NRCC's guidance to members in a closed-door meeting that they should not do in-person town hall meetings, and they had other ways to communicate with their members.
Yeah, I think you missed the message a little bit. The goal for us as Congresspeople, as you know, is to communicate with our constituents, not an organized disruptor funded by George Soros. So the issue is, how do we best communicate and listen and hear our constituents? And as you know, there are many different ways. There's teletown halls to communicate with our constituents. There's newsletters. You know, I can share with you, we've answered thousands of emails, but our goal is to communicate with our constituents, not to have a circus and be disrupted by others. We want to deal with our constituents, and what is the best way to do that? And that was the message.
Congresswoman, I just want to push back a little bit, though. You are elected to office to speak to the American people, no matter which side of the aisle they come from. And you specifically cite that George Soros-funded organizers are coming and disrupting these town halls. Where has that happened? Can you give us some examples of that?
All you need to do is turn on the TV, and it's all over the place. So what I'm sharing with you is, how do we communicate with people in effective, respectful manner where people can actually have a conversation with people and actually hear the issues? Because you're right, I want to communicate with all of my constituents, and I do, but it's hard to communicate with people when they're shouting and they don't let anyone get a word in edgewise. I think there's a little bit more effective ways to communicate, and that's what we're doing, right? We have teletown halls, like I said, we have newsletters. There's not just one focus, and I hope the message that everyone is hearing is communication is what we need. Disagreement is not disloyalty, but you have to be able to hear the other person to have disagreements.
All right. Well, House Republican Conference Chairwoman, Congresswoman Lisa McClain of Michigan. Congresswoman, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You the same. Congresswoman offering some differing viewpoints there. And we should note, when we heard